So riddle me this. How does the team with the largest dead cap hit in NFL history and a rookie quarterback basically get themselves to tied on the road in Buffalo in a playoff game at halftime? It's because the Broncos have just continued to pull fast ones on the NFL time and time again and get steals in the NFL draft. We're breaking down some of George Paton's best historically over just these past 2 years and the two on this team this year that I think are going to shock the NFL. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So I don't need to belabor the past, but we know the Denver Broncos had dug themselves an almost insurmountable hole there. You look at, obviously, everyone talks about the dead cap hit of Russell Wilson, but the Denver Broncos had given Randy Gregory a 5-year, $70 million deal. He did nothing for this team. We made a swing and a miss on Frank Clark, and then most notably, the Russell Wilson debacle that we will not even hash out. The Denver Broncos have built a playoff contender by not just finding diamonds in the rough, they're finding full Bitcoins in somebody else's spam mail. I love this tweet by Andrew Mason, who said, this Denver Broncos roster has gone through the moon since George Paton has been there and drafted extremely well. Let's break down just a few of these diamonds in the rough, starting off with one of my favorite players, number 0, Agent Zero himself, Jonathon Cooper. You look at what most NFL analysts were saying about him coming in was that he was a bottom of the roster, maybe a practice squad type player, that he did not have any twitchiness to him, that he was below average in his pursuit. He had sticky feet, meaning he's not moving fast, and he has a very basic pass rush approach. So how does a guy with slow, sticky feet have more pressures than all but 12 other exterior defensive linemen and have more tackles than all but 8 others? You were talking about a 7th round absolute steal. We find another steal here with obviously one of the best sackers in the entire NFL, Nik Bonitto. Again, you had all the prospects going into the draft say hey, he's too small. He can't man the edge. He can't stop the run. He gets swallowed up and stealed and contained. He needs to keep his motor up. How does a guy like that, who might eventually be a starter, is what they had ranked him going into this, end up being second in the sack race all of last season? And we haven't even seen the best ball out of him. I love what folks are saying about him and his potential this year. Again, an absolute stud. We get him in the last pick of the 2nd round. Quinn Miner is another player that most people did not think much of. They thought he might eventually be a starter at center. Obviously, we know he is an all-pro guard now. But the center position is one that doesn't take as much talent there. He didn't have a good power game according to all of the draft gurus. He needs to improve his power, improve his footwork. And now we look at truly one of the best guards in the entire NFL, an all-pro player. And you're looking at even PFF, who I think kind of hates on Broncos a lot of times, didn't think he's the 3rd best guard in all of football. I think he's going to be the 1st this year. And again, another player that George Paton stole at the very end of the 3rd round, obviously going to Devaughn Vele, another player no one had even heard of. They said he is a candidate for your practice squad. He might make the special teams unit. And we look at a dude who outplayed a lot of 1st round wide receivers. And we look here that PFF came out and said that he's the 44th best wide receiver in all of football. So basically, if you take 32 off of that and say that every team has one wide receiver 1, he would be the 12th best wide receiver 2, and he's a rookie, right? And we just see that he balled out of his mind, and we're hearing even more great things about how he's looking right now in training camp. We're just seeing footage of him, and he is looking every bit to take what he did last year and just explode upon it. He's added some muscle mass this year, and look at, the way he drops his hips into that cut is just wild, and we saw the production last year. Look at him make these contested catches against a pretty porous Raiders defense. But look, he is basically, he's got 4 dudes around him, and he goes up and skies up and grabs that ball. We obviously saw this play and what he can do here as Bo Nix does a little bit of a read option here and slings it on the run. Oh, so dirty. And that's against a decent Chargers defense there. And we know that this isn't something that's snuck up on the Broncos. We saw this all the way back from anyone recording on the Hill, that he was going up against one of the best secondaries in football in your Denver Broncos and pulling down ridiculous catches all the way back into training camp. There is no way that you should be getting a starting wide receiver in the 7th round of the NFL draft, but that is what George Paton does time and time again. Riley Moss, another player that the best hopes for him was that he was going to get moved to safety. Again, a position that does not take quite as much NFL talent to play safety as it does to lock down a guy's wide receiver. And we know that when Riley Moss was healthy, he was an absolute stud, and that this draft ranking of like he might eventually be a starter at safety is just false without a doubt. In that you look here, he was the 11th best according to this PFF ranking, he is the 11th best corner in all of football. So he's better than most teams' cornerback one, that he had the 6th most tackles of corners, and that he was the 7th best corner in all of football when it comes to receptions allowed. So obviously he's more than just a starter at safety. He's like a legit cornerback too, and that is wildly exciting. So that is why I'm over the moon pumped about a couple of guys on this roster that we got last year. We heard George Paton and Sean Payton talk about how they actually felt more confident going into this draft than any draft than they had before. So if we have the receipts of how good they did in previous drafts when they weren't as prepared, we need to be wildly confident about the guys that they stole again this year. And I think it starts off here with Sai'vion Jones, an edge rusher out of LSU. Again, you're seeing even the haters on him say like, hey, we actually think he's going to be a plus starter. So they're already more high on him. And then we heard at the press conference at OTAs just a couple of days ago that DJ Jones came out and said, this is the guy that he thinks is going to be wildly special. He just said he will be special one day. He will be very special. He has length. He loves to learn. DJ Jones went out and talked about how this team is all about not having an ego, and that starts with him. So a guy who played at LSU probably has every reason in the world to have an ego, right? Like he's shown up and he has done it. And we just take a look at footage of him playing all the way back in college, and we kind of start to see the stuff that Sean Payton had seen on film here. So we hear Baldy kind of talk him up here. His first step, he puts that left tackle just absolutely on skates. And we know, dude, he's coming into an edge room now and coming into a defensive line that has Zach Allen, who led the league in quarterback pressures, that has Jonathon Cooper that we just talked about, that has Nik Bonitto that we talked about, that has DJ Jones. Like he is coming into a plethora of talent. And LSU typically has a great defensive line. He's coming into an even more talented defensive front, and he is going to absolutely feast. And you don't need to take my word for it. Like, hear other scouts just rave about him. And just looking, I mean, you look, the footage is there of him just being a difference maker going back to college, and then to have his current teammate DJ Jones come out and be like, yeah, this dude is going to be special. We will look back on him just like we do Jonathon Cooper, just like we do Nik Bonitto, and say, how did everyone else just let the Broncos trade back up into the 3rd round to get him? Other guy who I think the Broncos have absolutely stolen that we will see even this year is Pat Bryant. Again, the big knock on him was that he didn't have like crazy blazing 40 time, but who cares how fast you run in underwear? And again, they're hating on him already, saying like, hey, he's maybe a backup, maybe a special teamer. Absolutely not. There is no way. We heard Sean Payton immediately come out and say, this guy actually reminds me a lot of Michael Thomas, the slant god himself, that one of his first guys who made that New Orleans offense just absolutely cook. And you look here, Sean Payton hasn't drafted a ton of wide receivers early, and look at the receipts of the guys that he has done that for. That 20th overall, he got Brandon Cooks, Robert Meacham, Michael Thomas, Marvin Mims, and Pat Bryant. Like he has high hopes for him. And if Devaughn Vele hit at the level that he hit, and he got him in the 7th round, how much higher must he be on a guy like Pat Bryant? So these Denver Broncos are going to make a deep playoff run. Clear your January, clear your February, because Sean Payton and George Paton have consistently hit in the draft, and that is how you build contenders for a long, long time. And they've done that again with Pat Bryant, with Q Robinson, with Jahdae Barron, and with Sai'vion Jones, and it is going to be a pleasure to behold. And Broncos country, we've got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in. Woo! No doubt.